In Ed Goeas. He is the CEO and president of the Tarrance Group and former senior advisor to Scott Walker's campaign. Good to see you, sir. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you.
How do you read these polls?
Well, I mean, first of all, a lot of these polls out there, in this Quinnipiac polls, at least they have a sample that's fairly large for a state survey. But you're still looking at about 20% of what they're reporting as the Republican voters are actually the participants in the race. What we're seeing internally in various campaigns is that Trump is running about half of what he's running in these public polls. They have the larger audience as opposed to the real primary voters. I think what you do see is we're beginning to move out of that phase that I've talked to you about before, the kind of window shopping phase where they're looking at 3 or 4 candidates, to actually going in and looking closer at the record of those candidates. And that's where you're seeing a Carson, you're seeing a Rubio really start to surface out of these numbers. And I think you're going to see that continue over the next month.
You know, Donald Trump made a really interesting point in an interview with Bret Baier on the Fox News channel last night, basically saying that the media is not friendly to him when it comes to these polling because he's been at the top by such a big margin for so long. He's saying the second he drops a point or two in the polls, all of a sudden the headlines all over the world are Trump's. Yeah, are you going to drop out? When are you going to drop out? But I mean, it's an interesting point because he has been at the top by so much for so long.
Yeah.
Well, except if you look at the internals, first of all, there's more people saying that they would not vote for him than they would vote for him with these primary voters. More importantly, when you look at the broader survey, he is both in terms of his unfavorables in the mid-50s, on not trusting him is in the high 50s. Those are awful numbers that will come home to roost as they focus on his specific record.
Monica, what do you think about that? Like, there's so many conspiracy theorists that say that all the time. Oh, Trump's just doing this for marketing. He's going to drop out.
No, listen, I think at the beginning he took the race on sort of as a lark. I mean, I have no evidence of this, just my speculation. And then he started to win, and I think it's most shocking to him that he has been able to lead and maintain his lead. But Ed, I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on the idea that the top 3 are still anti-establishment, anti-politician candidates. Trump, Carson, Fiorina. They're all sending a signal to the Republican establishment. We're going to go in there. We're going to blow things up. We're going to just decimate the establishment and the normal way things are done because it's gotten us to $18 trillion in debt and to a dysfunctional Washington. That signal, I think, is a very strong message. And regardless of who's the nominee, I think they'd be wise to take on that message and really absorb it.
Oh, I think it's very much the anti-Washington message is very much there. I mean, quite frankly, it's driven by the middle class, and the middle class feels very strongly on both ends that the rich are getting special deals and they're getting richer, and the poor are getting the programs and they're getting the bill. And they're tired of it because they don't see anything working in Washington. But when you look at the top 3 candidates, it's that window shopping phase where they're getting the attention. And quite frankly, with Trump, one of the things I've said about him, he's like Macy's Christmas window. Everyone's going there and being entertained, but they're not going in and buying. And quite frankly, that's one of the points on Trump, is he's entertaining voters' anger, but he's not driving that anger. And I think you're going to see other candidates get more in the mode of really attaching what they stand for to where the voters stand in terms of their frustration and anger towards Washington.
Ed, you're going to move on to another campaign?
I may, but you know, I was deeply committed to Scott Walker. I thought he was a great candidate, and I think you'll see him in the future. So I'll take my time.
All right, Ed. Good to have you on the show today. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Ed Goeas there.